welcome to Rights and Recourse, a program that educates you about your rights and recourse to those violated. My name is Dumila Mateza. With the Easter weekend only days away and road traffic authorities and the transport industry are head over heels in anticipation of what is likely going to be a busy weekend on the South African roads. Main arteries of the South African roads are normally known for traffic congestions and accidents. In the light of expectation and anxiety of the road accidents, Rights and Recourse would like to explore the preparedness of the public transport sector, the Department of Transport and its agencies for the weekend of Easter. But before we get into that discussion, let us view this insert.
The impact that these crashes have had on affected families and society at large. It is with even deeper sense of concern that we have become accustomed to the high occurrence of increased crashes and fatalities, which we have to bear news about every time this time of the year. For the period under review, there were 1,147 crashes nationally, with 1,376 fatalities.
We have identified the hotspots. There are certain areas on our national highways, on our provincial roads, and also certain municipal roads that we're finding high numbers of fatalities. So we're going to be targeting those hazardous locations, or as we call it, HAZLOCs. Those will be very specific points of intervention. They will have very aggressive policing, roadblocks, and general traffic operations on in those particular areas. Now, this particular spot is one of them. We have a large number of pedestrians crossing a highway. We have vehicles going at high speed here, and we've had a number of fatalities at this particular spot, and that's why we've chosen this particular area. The R59 is another area. The N14 near Diepsloot is a particularly high-risk area, and then of course the Golden Highway is another critical area for us. So those are the kinds of locations that we will be targeting, but then there will be a general stepping up of law enforcement across the board.
Well, to discuss this issue are Dr. Eugene Watson, CEO of the Road Accident Fund, Mr. Philip Taaibosch, President of the South African National Taxi Council, Professor Jacobus, Strategic Advisor for the South African Bus Operators Association, and in our Pretoria studios, Mr. Thabo Tsholetsane, COO of the Road Traffic Infringement Agency. Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
If you'd like to join us on today's discussion, please call us on 011 714 6919 or 18, or tweet us on Rights and Recourse. Gentlemen, the one thing that I want to start with, we had an exceedingly high number of deaths over the Christmas weekend. The figures that were read by the Minister of Transport, Mr. Puo Peters. And one of the other things that I want at the same time, that South Africa, it's a statistic that RAF likes to bend it about and tell us about. South Africa loses about 306 billion rand to its economy due to road accidents. Of course, it's not just human lives. If one factors in the loss of skills, emergency medical services, post-crash services and compensation by the RAF. Eugene, you probably want to put that into perspective.
Well, I think the 306 billion rand is a calculated figure which includes all of the costs, as you rightfully mentioned. What it doesn't, however, include is the future costs. A young man who gets killed on the road today may in fact be tomorrow's businessman, who may employ people, who may have a family, who may participate in our economy. So the costs, truthfully, when it comes to road accidents, are significant, both now and into the future, and it's something we all need to take seriously as South Africans.
Do you want to make a comment, Mr. Taaibosch?
I think Dr. Watson is right, and that's where we as SANTACO normally would advise that it's not worthy to get involved in an accident because it is costly, and we've seen how it costs our country when accidents happen and people are disabled because of the accidents. So it is very costly.
The Automobile Association recorded that the 70,000 minibuses on our roads, and in a year the most number of crashes are caused by minibus taxis. Is that true, Mr. Taaibosch?
I think the Automobile Association must go and redo their calculations, or they must indicate where they get their information from. Because our own research, and I think it has been proven for the last 4 years since we started with our Operation Hlokomela campaign. Operation Hlokomela is the road safety campaign of the taxi industry.
We'll get to Hlokomela. Can we just sort out this issue
I'm saying
taxis?
On the minibus taxis, yes, the Automobile Association, I think their figures are not correct, and it has been proven that the taxi industry is responsible only for 3% of the road accidents.
Professor Walters, this also has a huge number of bus accidents on our roads.
Yeah, I think what's important, if you look at the statistic of 307 billion, 80% of the accidents are caused by humans, the drivers behind the steering wheels. And, that's for reckless driving, speeding, disregarding traffic signs, driving too fast for the prevailing circumstances and so on. And it's always an effort to try and convince drivers to abide by the rules of the road, whether you're in a formal industry or an informal industry, because once behind the steering wheel, you're not in contact with those people. And if you can change that attitude, that we are more tolerant on the roads, more observant, be more careful, and realize, that we have people's lives in our hands as drivers, but also as drivers of public transport vehicles. Then we will go a long way in reducing road traffic accidents, incidents in this country.
At this point, I think I should bring in Thabo Tsholetsane, the COO of the Road Traffic Infringement. There's a long term that you'll correct us. You'll correct us, sir. But surely somebody was saying if there was proper policing of motor vehicles on our roads, we would have less accidents.
Surely, Dumile, I agree that proper policing is very necessary in order for us to reduce accidents. However, we need to understand that the ratio that we should be employing in terms of police and vehicles need to be worked on, and we need to make sure that that ratio is correct. Now, the issue that needs to be looked at is what is the cause of the accidents on the road? As Professor Walter said, the attitude of the motorist is the most important thing in terms of how we are going to deal with this carnage on our road. Now, we as the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, we need to make sure that we are down there and make sure that we change the attitude by simply making sure that those people who contravene on the roads, they know that the consequences can be more harsher than they were before.
Well, 30 seconds to go before let's go to the break. When we come back, we'll touch on the driver's attitudes that Professor Walters raised here with Mr. Taaibosch. If you want to join us, please phone us on 011 714 6919 or 18. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. If you'd like to join us, please call us on 011 714 6918 or 6919 or tweet us on Rights and Recourse. Gentlemen, it's been said, all of these things are human. It's people who do not realize they're carrying people with them, both bus drivers and taxi drivers. But Mr. Taaibosch, I want to know, what is SANTACO doing regarding to change the attitudes of drivers on taxis? They are not courteous to their own people. They're not courteous on the road. What is SANTACO doing about that?
Firstly, let me acknowledge that we have not done enough for the taxi operators for quite some time in the country. And we have realized that it is very important that we put all our attention and even our muscles around the improvement of our taxi drivers. we have realized that one of the best things to do is to train. But training without also communicating very openly, verbally to the drivers would not assist. Hence, we are engaging our taxi drivers in discussions around their responsibilities on the road. But one of the most important things is to accept that attitude, as Dr. Watson earlier indicated, plays a major role. And we are working very hard around the changing of attitude of our drivers. One is to also put to the drivers that how important are they to society and how important are they to our roads in the country. So we are also engaging our drivers in training. We've got a training academy which we have launched in the Free State.
Who runs this academy?
The taxi academy is run by a service provider who is training our drivers at that training center. And
what
with the
does
assistance
the
of
service
both.
provider, sorry, Mr. Taaibosch, I'm sorry to be interrupting you here, Mr. President. I should have congratulated you. Congratulations, you are now a president.
Thank you very
General
much,
Secretary to President.
Thank you.
The
Thank
question
you,
I want to know, does the service provider know all the aspects of the road infringement, all of these things we talk about here today?
To me, I must indicate to you that we have employed a very professional service provider who is very well acquainted with what needs to be done with, as far as training is concerned with the drivers. And I believe that we are addressing that. And if one has to look since 2010, to me, you will see that from the taxi industry sides, the reduction on the infringement on the roads, the reduction on the crashes, that tells you that we are busy doing something which is working. But we must remember that it is, a long way to go. And if one has to look into the history of the taxi drivers being left alone all the time, and to catch up with that, it's a mammoth task. But we believe that we are busy winning the scourge of the taxi accident,
this
of the
academy,
accident.
I'm sorry to be interrupting you again. This academy is only in the Free State?
It is in the Free State. That is what we call the National Academy. We will be putting out 9 satellite academies in all the provinces very soon. So we are looking into the issues of funding, and we are looking at our partners, which is government. We are looking at the motor industries, different captains of the motor industries to come forward to put something into the kitty of SANTACO so that we can be able to run these institutions.
Well, I can vouch for Mr. Taaibosch there. We had discussions with the RTMC. They also say the taxis contribute around 3% of the accidents that you see during Christmas and the Easter weekend. Professor Walters, we have the same problems with buses. I remember at some stage in the Western Cape, MEC Robin Carlyle wanted to ban some bus operators.
Well, it's maybe 1 or 2 that we're talking about out of thousands of companies involved in this industry. I think, normally you'll find, well, in the industry itself, there's a standard training manual that's been developed by the industry for the industry. It's been used by employers. And and when people apply for work, they're carefully screened in most of these companies. But what's important, apart from the training, is the follow-up work, monitoring of those people, disciplining people, and being proactive, recording your statistics within companies as to when and where these instances occur, and then try and address that from a remedial point of view. So it's not only the training, it's a whole system that you have to bear in mind from a training point of view, and to change attitudes within companies. And I think with drivers, and this is, I think, one of the most difficult issues we faced with in South Africa, is to change the attitude, not only of public transport drivers, but also as motorists in the country, to be more patient, to be more observant. And if we can do that, we'll address one of the major causes of accidents in this country. So it's not only the technical side and the actual physical speeding that's important, but it's our attitudes towards other road users, how we use our vehicles, that's really critical. And there we need attitudinal change.
I was going to go to Thabo in Pretoria, but first of all, let's take this call from Moses in Limpopo. Moses, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I'm more concerned about the automated driving. They seems not to control their cars. They wait somebody, they expect somebody to control what they are driving. You see, you can't expect Univer to control your car. You must take responsibility. Some of these taxis, they use them as a dining room. They eat inside while driving, even passenger also. You see, people tend to lose control on their way. No, I think I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay, Moses. Thank you very much, Moses. Automated drivers. What does it mean by that?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about the automated part, but definitely in terms of what people do in their car, it talks to distracted driving, and that applies not only to the buses and the taxis. That applies to normal vehicle drivers like yourself and I. We're forgetting that there are over 10 million cars in our country. They run on 750,000 kilometers worth of roads. So we need to appreciate the fact that attitude is not only one of taxi drivers and bus drivers. Vast majority of road users are in fact normal private users of vehicles. One of the things which does come up, and it talks to responsibility, taking responsibility, is the fact that half the people who die are not in the car. So you're talking about pedestrians, you're talking about cyclists and the like. So when we do talk road safety, we shouldn't single one specific category out. We should appreciate that there are pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, passengers, and then also public transportation agencies involved. And we should all take responsibility.
Mr. Tsholetsane, the question I wanted to know, when a car, let's take a bus or a taxi, is stopped on the road by your people, what do they look for? What is it that they look for?
Dumile, there's a thing called roadworthiness, and the traffic officer would actually go and check the vehicle for its roadworthiness. There's a form that they look at. They should look at the lights of the vehicle. They should look at the tires of the vehicle. They should look at the braking system of the vehicle. They should also look at the driver himself, whether the driver is fit. And when they do this, they make sure that there are some of the critical issues in a vehicle that might, if that vehicle does not have those things or they are not functional, it might be involved in an accident. So they look into the vehicle and see if those things are there, then they can let the vehicle go. Sometimes they find that the braking system or the exhaust system is not what it should be, and they'll have to take the vehicle off the road and make sure that those things are fixed before the vehicle can go. You find that all the buses that are on the roads, they have a certain standard as per manufacturer's specifications. However, you find some of the operators, they do funny things into these vehicles by changing some of the things, not having the correct equipment on the vehicle. So those things are the ones that cause accidents. You'll remember that there was a bus that had a steering that was tied with some wires. And those are the things that we don't want to see on our roads. We know SABO have got a standard. They have a situation where all the drivers, all their members, they go to them and teach them what is it that should be on their buses. We know SANTACO has got an academy. They have Tlokomela, where they inform their drivers of the correct things. However, there will be one or two, those who don't want to listen to the rules and go their own way and cause these massive accidents. And it's seen that as if the taxi industry or the bus industry is actually at fault. It's individuals, and as we said, it's only a question of attitude of people that must change. And the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, together with government, are in a very difficult position because according to the ARTO Act, you need to take away the license when the person does these funny things. However, we are looking at the economic situation of the socio-economic issues and saying, how is it going to work when most of the people do not have their licenses and they are not working? So we are trying to look at those things and make sure that we preserve the lives of South Africans through this ARTO system.
Well, when we come back, we'll touch on the Hlokomela, which is a relationship, a campaign that is led by SANTACO and the RAF and hear what is it that they are doing to help our drivers to keep on the straight and narrow on our roads. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this. Yes. Oh, there's Voxes. Okay. Okay. Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. If you'd like to join us, please call us on 011 714 6918 or 6919, or you can tweet us the whole day today, even tomorrow, on Rights and Recourse. Mr. Taaibosch, it's well and good that you have an academy in the Free State, but a driver cannot come out of the academy into an unroadworthy taxi.
Domi, let me first appreciate the question and also indicate that, South Africans are beginning to be like a record, and I don't know whether it's what you're doing, which is stuck at one place, unroadworthy vehicles. I'm not sure whether you have seen taxis which are on our roads today.
Well, I've seen one drove into me.
When you refer to unroadworthy taxis, I think one of the things people must appreciate is that through the taxi recapitalization program of the government of South Africa, we have managed to replace about close to 67% of the vehicles.
You're talking about the taxi recapitalization program.
Taxi recapitalization program, and through it, I don't want to talk about the inner defects of the taxi recapitalization program, but the assistance which it has brought to some taxi operators who have managed to change their vehicles. We are looking at a brand new taxi industry with very small numbers when it comes to those vehicles which we are saying are still old in the old system.
Mr. Taaibosch, let's hold it there for a while. I'm told there's a caller on the line. He's phoning from Cape Town. Tembani, good afternoon and welcome. What's your question? Sikhona kunjani mhlekazi?
Siyaphila Bhutumile man.
Ask your question. Tembani, ask your question in English. I don't think all of the people see it. Tembani.
And imoto ziqhutywa ngabantwana aba-under age oma-18 years baqhuba imoto umntu ezihamba long distance uyi-one uthwela abantu abayi-13 zezinye izinto abahlekayo funeka bazijonge ezo apha ezindleleni ukuze iingozi zethu zehle kancinci ebhudumile.
Well, what Tembani is saying, normally taxis, even ordinary cars, try to overtake 3 buses on the road, and they don't know what to expect in front. And secondly, something we spoke about before we came here, he says taxis, before they leave on long distance, should be checked for defects and all sorts of things. Does that happen?
It's happening on the defects, Dumi. And again, I know you would want to speak to Hlokomela, but I must indicate that we've got champions of this program.
What is this Hlokomela? Eugene, just tell us, it's between the two of you, between your organizations.
Sure. It's primarily a SANTACO program with the intention of articulating a road safety message to its drivers to ensure that all the issues you raise are addressed. As the RAF, we believe SANTACO is an important partner. Every day, 15 million people will travel in a taxi. If we're going to contribute to road safety as the Road Accident Fund, there can be no quicker and better vehicle than for us to associate ourselves with SANTACO, because you kill two birds with one stone. You deal with a big commuter on our roads, and secondly, in terms of the passengers, you promote pedestrian safety too.
What is the role of SANTACO in Hlokomela? You spoke about champions.
Yeah, the role of SANTACO, firstly, let me indicate it's to take responsibility on the roads and to take responsibility of the behavior of drivers and to educate also the public around road safety, around behavior, or as Eugene indicated earlier, on pedestrians. So SANTACO is doing all those things. The other thing is to advise operators on the defects in their vehicles. For instance, we have a 20-point check plan, which the champion of Hlokomela would go with the driver or the operator through the vehicle and indicate the defects to the operator. And that vehicle, if it is found it's in such a way that it cannot be on the road, would not be able to load passengers. The owner will be called and the owner will be given that check plan so that he go and look into the check plan and show that the vehicle is correct. So that the plan of Hlokomela is the one of saying that it's not government alone which is responsible for the road safety. It is our responsibility, and do we know that we are more than 65%. Road users as far as public transport is concerned. SANTACO is responsible for more than 65%. So it is our responsibility to ensure that each and every driver of us, each and every vehicle of us, when it goes to the roads, it complies with the standard rules of road using in South Africa.
I'll come back to that, Thabo. You heard earlier, Mrs. Tsholetsane, that our caller from Cape Town talking about people overtake 3 buses and not knowing what's coming from. What is the Road Transport Infringement Agency doing, especially with regard to policing those type of things?
Yes, Dumile. In fact, policing is in the terrain of the Road Traffic Management Corporation. And as you have heard on the clips that you played earlier, that there are certain areas which are identified as hazardous areas, and those kind of areas is where people normally do those kind of things, and the police are being deployed there during these periods, the heavy periods, so that they can actually see the vehicles that do those things and make sure that they do not do those kind of things on the road. You'll remember that on the Moloto Road we have so many accidents because of this kind of overtaking, and government together with the bus industry, they decided that they are going to come up with programs where there will be dedicated resources on those kind of routes. So that same principle is applied all over in the country. Where there are called hazardous areas, there will be a large number of police officers and traffic officers patrolling those routes to make sure that they do look into those kind of behavior from the motorists.
Well, at this stage, I think it is appropriate that we listen to what the public out there is saying about the public transport industry.
100%. Comes to job for us, plenty other ways to get job. But to stop accidents from the road, this is most ethical way to do it.
I think everything is happening for a reason. For my side, I used to pray a lot. So before I get to my way, I pray. So that means I'm safe with God's name.
We realise that it is a situation that you've got to deal with, and if this is going to make it safer, then fair enough.
Well, those are the views of some of the people who use public transport. Mr. Taaibosch, it's a pity we're going to be most concentrating on the two of you, the Bus Operators Association and Mr. Taaibosch. The question is, should people now resort to praying before they get into a taxi or a bus?
Well, hopefully not. Public transport should be safe, and the systems to support public transport. So if you look at a typical bus company, a vehicle that comes in off the road will go through a daily inspection, a weekly inspection. It'll be maintained based on worked out schedules, distance-based, in collaboration with the suppliers and so on. But it's also important, once again, you mentioned drivers passing three vehicles. It's an attitude problem, once again. But it could also be a situation where the following distances are too short for someone to cut in, which is also an attitudinal problem, because we have to have at least 3 seconds of space between my vehicle and the following vehicle in front of me, so that if this happens, that someone can really chip in. So, if you look at attitudinal issues that we're talking about, it's really widespread, and we have to change attitude around a range of things. But as far as safety is concerned, I think it's really important that we do maintain our vehicles properly. And if in the bus industry specifically, we've now adopted the Road Transport Management System, which is the voluntary system, which is the independent audit of bus companies on the operations, the processes, procedures, and so on. And so ISO 39001 standard. This is now being rolled out. And this has huge impact on companies that have gone through this, not only in our industry, but also the road freight industry, where you're independently audited based on your procedures and so on. And that has had a major impact on reduction of speeding offences, accidents, better fuel consumption in vehicles and so on. So it's an integrated approach. That's what I'm arguing for within companies that you have to follow. It's not only the driver. You have to focus on the driver, obviously, but it's an integrated approach. It cuts across many disciplines within a company.
I wanted to come to Mr. Taaibosch, but let's go to a break. When we come back, we'll come to Mr. Taaibosch and ask him, should people resort to divine intervention before they get into a bus or a taxi? Don't go away. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. If you'd like to be part of our discussion, you can join us on 011 714 6918 or 6919, or you can tweet us on Rights and Recourse. Mr. Taaibosch, the issues that I raised with Professor Walters around should people now resort to praying. You heard that lady saying, I pray before I get into a taxi.
To me, it's true. I must agree with that passenger that that's how passengers used to do before when they get into a taxi, that they are praying that, we must leave from our departure to our destination. What I want to indicate is that we are working on this issue of attitude and the issue of mind setting. Mind setting, you still have your own the very same commuters who are coming late into vehicles and, expecting the driver to reach his destination in a prescribed time. We are trying to say to the commuters that they and the drivers, they need to engage in dialogues which are leading to an understanding of both of them and the importance of the very same person who needs to take him to her point of destination. That person needs to concentrate, that person needs to, look into other road users. I think that if our drivers can learn to respect the other road users, and if the commuters can learn to respect that the driver is not alone on the road and he cannot just go passing vehicles to make him or she arrive at the time which she wants. So the road is a shared space.
It's a shared space, and people cannot begin to say, you must drive fast, you must overtake, you must do this.
Absolutely. But as I've said, Dumi, you can't do it otherwise except to engage in training, engage into continuous communication with the drivers. And that's what the SANTACO Hlokomela and the SANTACO Training Academy do to ensure that our drivers are being fed with education on a daily basis.
I just want to go back to something I wanted to ask Mr. Tsholetsane in Pretoria. Mr. Tsholetsane, what happens if I am a driver of a car, I come across an accident, and I'm the only person there, and traffic is coming? Do I have the right to stop traffic or show traffic that I must slow down? Or what do I do? Is it my role? Is it my duty? What happens if I'm knocked over?
Dumile, before I come to that one, let me just comment on the issue of the prayer. As we, as government, have realized that there's a whole shoot of faith-based organizations that are reaching over half the population of this country on a particular Sunday. Now we are engaging with those faith-based organizations. The RTIA is leading all the agencies together with the department to make sure that we engage this faith-based organization so that they can talk to the people in churches. You'll know that during Easter, there's Moria, there's a whole lot of other churches going to pilgrimages. So we want to reach those people through the interfaith-based organizations so that they understand their roles in terms of the roads. They also be our eyes on the roads that they can tell whoever is making the mistakes on our roads. Now, coming back to your question, Dumile, if you find an accident, as a responsible citizen, you need to stop and see what happened and so that you make sure that you inform the authorities through the toll-free numbers that you see on the sides of the road. You can inform the authorities that there is an accident so that the authorities are aware and they can come and help. You, as a driver, you are not allowed to touch the scene because there might be people who are very hurt that you might be pushing around and making them more susceptible to further injuries.
Can I direct the traffic, though? And what happens if I myself is knocked down?
Dumile, what is necessary is for you to make sure that the other motorists see that there's something happening by putting on your flickers so that the other motorists can see that when you go to that particular area, there's something happening. It is not necessary for you to direct traffic. You can just make sure that that scene is secured by you putting on your flickers so that people can see something is happening there. It is very dangerous for people to try to direct traffic because, one, they might not have the reflective vests that are visible for them so that the traffic can see them. So we advise people that they should put on their flickers so that people can see that something is happening.
Can you answer this? I've actually come across, I read something, it's my favorite question, I like to ask it, that some of the traffic officers do not even know what to look for when they stop a bus.
Well, Dumile, we know that some of the traffic officers, they've been trained a long time ago, and people in the industry will tell you some of the buses have changed so much that they do not know what are the things that they need to look for. But you'll remember that government engages with multiple stakeholders, and we have a program where the industry comes in and assists the traffic officers into looking into these buses as well as trucks to look at the issues that they need to look at so that they learn from the industry and make sure that in future they know what are the issues that they can deal with in terms of buses as well as trucks.
Well, there you have it for now. We'll be back after the break. And when we come back, we will talk specifically about this upcoming Easter weekend. What are we going to be doing as different organizations, as the taxis, the buses, the RAF and the RTIA when we get into the Easter weekend? Please do call us on 011 714 6918 or 6919 or tweet us at Rights and Recourse. Rights and Recourse, and thank you for staying with us here on Rights and Recourse. Let's go quickly to Bafana in KwaZulu-Natal. Bafana, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. and I greet your panelists as well. Sir, I'm a taxi operator who operates here in KwaZulu-Natal, and I find it very difficult to meet and comply with the laws of this country because most of them are written in English, and I'm a Zulu. And I expect that whatever law that has to be regulated in our industry has to be written in our language as well. That's the first one. But secondly, we have this problem of government where we compete with the buses, and most of the buses, even if they are not all, but most of buses are not are subsidized by government, and yet our passengers are not subsidized by government. What do your panelists say about that? Because we have this problem of competing with government, and yet government is a regulator, and they want us to compete with their buses. Can I leave it at that at the moment?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Let me first go to the government agencies that are here this afternoon. Mr. Tsholetsane, you heard. Eugene, you heard that our caller from KwaZulu-Natal says the Constitution says all South African languages must be used, but laws and regulations in this country are still written in English.
Sure. I don't think it applies. I don't think the caller's comment applies only to government publications. Fortunately, there is a Language Act which was passed not too long ago, so you will start to see entities of the state as well as private institutions compelled to communicate in more than one official language. As the RAF, we have systematically started a process where a lot of our material is actually put out in all official languages, and definitely within the province you go to, we make an assessment of what language would work best. At a consumer level, just to add, and I think it relates to the Bus Association, the Consumer Protection Act actually says that you need to communicate in plain language, which also contributes to people understanding. So we all have a role to play.
Mr. Tsholetsane?
Yes, Dumile, I think Dr. Watson has covered it. We as government, we are compelled by the Constitution to deal with these issues. You'll remember that in the past, there was only two languages that you need to use for legislation, but now we are compelled to use 2 languages, but it shouldn't be just English and Afrikaans. So in other statute, you'll find that it is in English and Zulu. Other statute, you'll find it's Xhosa and English. So government is gradually actually trying to comply to those issues in terms of what it's publicizing in official communique.
Let's take a caller from Soweto. Bongani, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Dumile.
What's your question?
Hello?
What is your question?
I don't have a question. I just want to comment about something. I heard you were asking a question about traffic officers or law enforcement officers unable to know what is it that they are looking for when they are stopping a bus.
Yes.
So I would like to add on to what Mr. Tsholetsane has said. I'm one of the traffic officers in Joburg, and I'm at the academy there in Johannesburg. So what I can say about that, I know that there's lots of amendments in terms of National Road Traffic Act. So what I've foreseen is that our officers, whether in all the metros around Gauteng, the in-service, there's what we call in-service training of our old officers, as well as the new officers in terms of the amendments in the Act. So if they can do regular or come to regular in-service, where they are being taught about these latest amendments in terms of the regulations, surely they will know what is it that they are looking for. Some of us, we know what is it that they are looking for when they stop a bus. So yes, for sure, there's lots of changes in the regulations and the legislation as well. I would like to stop at that.
Thank you very much, Bongani. That was very insightful for you to phone in and tell us exactly what you do, especially if you are somebody who's training other officers. The other question was around the issue of bus subsidies. I can't leave that because our caller from Natal mentioned that. I understand, Mr. Taaibosch, that SANTACO and other taxi organizations are planning to take the government to the Competition Commission around this issue.
To me, firstly,
very briefly.
Let me correct, there is no other taxi organizations. There is one taxi organization, it's SANTACO. And SANTACO, on behalf of all the taxi operators in South Africa, has, after numerous discussions with the Department of Transport on the issue of subsidy, has come to a conclusion that it must approach the Competition Commission for the Competition Commission to rule whether the constitution of this country has not been transgressed when it comes to ensuring that there is equal competition in the industry. For instance, when we look into the bus industry, Saboa, Golden Arrow, and all those buses, you find them being subsidized. And from us as a taxi industry, we have not been subsidized, and that alone says there's a transgression.
Well,
when it comes to
that's
equality.
A different issue altogether. We'll have to have another discussion just around subsidization of the taxi industry or the public transport industry. I will follow up on this. Please take my word for it. We'll follow up with this. Let's go to another break. You'll get another chance. Sorry, Mr. Taaibosch. You'll get another chance to respond. Let's go to another break, our final break this afternoon, but you can still call us on 714-6918. And when we come back, we'll definitely deal with what we expect to happen over the coming Easter weekend. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. Thank you for staying with us. The other question I wanted to ask, obviously, earlier we made a joke about it, that when passengers see a taxi that is dilapidated, they refuse to get onto that taxi. What are the rights of passengers, whether they are on a bus or a taxi?
I think, Dumi, you are right. That is exactly the rights of passengers. We advise passengers not to get into taxis which are not roadworthy, according to them. We are also saying to our taxi commuters that they don't go into a taxi when they see that the driver is not in a stable condition. We also advise commuters not to go into a taxi which is overloaded. So those are the advices which you are giving, and we are saying that that particular taxi operator, taxi commuter is protected, protected, and will be given the necessary transport to transport him from where he is. And we've been doing that all these years, and especially after we have started with the taxi recapitalization progress, we have been intensive in ensuring that our taxis on the road are all roadworthy.
Mr. Taaibosch, I'm sorry to be cutting you short once again. Professor, you'll answer the question later. Just want to take this call from Kululi in Cape Town. Kululi, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse. Hello, Kululi, are you there? Well, we have lost him, Kululi, but we'll expect him to call back, or somebody's going to call him back from the studio. Professor, your response to the rights of the passengers on a bus.
Well, I think, Dumi, when you buy a ticket, you expect the service to be delivered in a safe manner, on time. You expect the vehicle to be clean, roadworthy, and to bring you there where you want to go. So I don't think one could expect anything else than just that. And obviously the driver must be courteous and drive the vehicle according to the laws of the country, and not put your life at risk when you've purchased a ticket to get onto a bus from point A to point B.
Guys, quickly, we're going to an Easter weekend next week, and what should we expect from the road transport infringement point of view?
Yes, Dumile, firstly we'd like to request and appeal to the passengers that they should not please pressurize the drivers, that they are late, both of buses and taxis. Secondly, we appeal to the commuters themselves to make sure that they are on time for their transportation. We also want to appeal to the drivers. We want to appeal to the pedestrians to behave this Easter. We know that every Easter there's a huge number of people dying. We are saying this year, please let them behave. We're also appealing to the faith-based organizations that when they go into their churches, they should please preach road safety, advise the members of the churches what to do on the roads and what not to do. We also appeal to the traffic officers that will be manning our roads to please be courteous to the motorists as well, so that the motorists can respect them as well.
The RAF will also be on the road.
Yes, we'll
Eugene.
be doing quite a lot. I mean, we have a partnership with SANTACO. We'll be at taxi ranks, we'll be at toll gates, we'll be at shopping malls, we'll be on radio and on TV promoting road safety. And the theme of our campaign really is to reach all road users and to tell them to get where they're going.
Well, all of us have been requested to assist the RAF in reporting suspicious people who are related activities. Please contact the fraud hotline on toll-free. Call tip-offs at 0800 5919 0800 00 5919. Remember that you may remain anonymous when you do this. To all of those who are going on Easter holiday over the weekend, have a safe journey and please don't drink and drive. This program is repeated at 10 every Sunday evening and 5 on Monday mornings. From all of us here in the studio, know your rights and good afternoon.